I'm Alan Minsky. I'm the Executive Director of Progressive Democrats of America. I am speaking from Los Angeles, California, where we are living in a real full regalia social crisis and really a crisis of any democratic society. The behavior of the federal government towards, under the leadership of Donald Trump, towards the people of Southern California right now is atrocious. It's world historically terrible to see this in the United States of America. Obviously, there's been a lot of problems across American history, but that whole idea of the history is a long arc, but it bends towards justice. This is one of those moments where there's a reaction, and it's a lurch backwards, and it's stunning to be here in Los Angeles to meet with a group of activists last night and know that there were some activists who were gathering near Town Hall, City Hall in Los Angeles, and the consensus among the group of people I was with is we weren't going to go there because we were worried it was a trap. Um, and that's the reality in Southern California right now. So welcome everybody. I'm Alan Minsky, Executive Director of Progressive Democrats of America, to unfortunately a town hall at a historic moment in American history. Congresswoman Ina Berrigan actually released a text the other day, just a few moments ago, actually, and in which she says that ICE is going to be here for the next month in Southern California, in LA County, doing raids and rounding people up. It's like the Gestapo has come to town. I mean, it's violent, state organized targeting of ethnically defined communities. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch to draw the parallel. And people being rounded up and sent away, and we know the places that people are being sent are certainly not in order with international human rights for detainees. And all this started just around 48 hours ago now on Friday, and obviously went throughout all of yesterday, and now here we are. I living here and everything, and I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go to. I just came from a group of activists who were meeting and collecting together at Mariachi Square in East LA. I was there for about 45 minutes. Of course, I had to leave to come for the town hall. It certainly wasn't a circumstance where I could trust that I could deliver in my usual role on the town hall from that location. And when the town hall ends, and I won't be here in one of the extended set of hours that sometimes these town halls last today, because I'll be going down to a demonstration that's been called for at 2 p.m. in at City Hall in Los Angeles. And I've been in a lot of these kind of circumstances in my life. I was very active and very much a media organizer and activist organizer during the era of the battle in Seattle, when I went to a number of demonstrations in the United States and also around the world, including here in Los Angeles, that were basically police riots, and managed not to get arrested, only encountered tear gas a little bit. So don't worry about me. I sort of am a veteran of navigating this. Of course, I've never had anything this frightening, I mean, what was going on at that time. Yes, it was frightening. I have to say this too, if you look back at that era, and of course I have a lot of reflections on, quote unquote, black bloc as an organizing technique, where I eventually, of course, came around to rejecting it as an organizing technique. I think it's very difficult to trust the people, even when you're in affinity groups with them, know who they are, they're provocateurs. And at the time, even within Seattle, people might remember there was a lot of animus towards Starbucks at that point, a global, becoming a very rapidly expanding global corporation, which initially was a Seattle coffee house. And so activists would, and who were they? Were they provocateurs? Were they police undercover? I think some of them, probably most of them weren't initially, at least. But the smashing of glass and stuff like that. I don't think we're going to see that in LA. There was a burning of a car and that much was made of it yesterday. But I do not expect there's going to be anything like that level of property damage here. I think we're in an era now where community-based activists have too much respect for the communities that they're in to be doing that. So I would be wary if you see that in terms of provocateurs, but I just don't expect to see it, much of it. And of course, there's also a heightened awareness that that kind of behavior will be exploited. So if it does happen, I would not put it beyond provocateurs achieving that. And then even in that respect, I think we're in a very different context than in 2020. I could be mistaken. I obviously don't have a crystal ball. I don't know the future. But certainly the activists that I just left at Moriarty Square have a tremendous love for East LA, and they're not going to be damaging storefronts there. So, yeah. And anyway, welcome everybody. This is obviously a very difficult context to join you from. Myself, I live in Los Angeles, California, and there's a general sense that we're under siege from the federal government here. Don't get me wrong, it's not. So this is a vast geographic expanse. My neighborhood is like my neighborhood is none every day. It's not like I'm fearful that the Gestapo is going to come marching down my street any moment. Though, if I lived in Pico Union or over in Paramount or in East LA, yeah, that's not an unrealistic thought. And that's what life is like in the Trump era 2.0. It's constitutively different even than Trump 1.0. And this is in so many ways, I think, you know, along the lines of a playbook of fascist behavior, pro-paramilitary fascist behavior from our administration. Of course, the call for the National Guard came from the border czar guy, and but Stephen Miller has been outspoken about what he intends to achieve through this, and it's terrifying. Southern California would not. Southern California is very wealthy as a metropolitan area goes, and it's well understood that some of the best chefs and preparatory chefs and gardeners and construction workers in the world are in Southern California, and they're disproportionately made up of immigrant labor. There's just no way that the essential services too of Southern California that are essential to social reproduction could be achieved without immigrant labor for any time since NAFTA, since 1994, when the beginning of the huge waves of immigration started to arrive in Southern California from Latin America and Mexico. So this is absurdly racist cast hatred towards very, very hardworking communities and people who also, absolutely make up the cultural fabric and texture of Southern California beautifully. And it's an example of humans, again, behaving atrociously towards other humans, type of thing we on the progressive left have to oppose. And I certainly see it in the framework of international working class solidarity. Okay, so on today's town hall, we're going to be returning to the subject of what's going on in Los Angeles in the second hour. We'll also focus on a national day of activism that would include street activism in Los Angeles, though maybe that is thrown somewhat into question. We don't know how things will be in 6 days from now. But a national day of action, June 14th, the No Kings Day of Action. PDA is part of the coalition that is putting that on around the country. There's not a major demonstration going on in Washington because of a fear of a direct conflict with militarized Washington, D.C., because next Saturday, 6 days from today, is the day that is Donald Trump's birthday, and he's putting on a military parade through the capital city of the United States, which is atrocious and extremely un-American, and breaking new ground in that regard in an appalling way. But the organizers aren't calling for a central demonstration there, so Philadelphia will be a major city for the demonstrators and other major population centers. And by the way, notice that Phoenix is one of the starred city on the nokings.org map where people can find the demonstration near them. Now, in this hour, we are going to hear from Delia Ramirez in about 20 minutes. And before that, we are going to hear from the mayor of Tucson, Arizona, who's going to join us live in person, Regina Romero. And Regina Romero will be here to talk about the congressional race in her district to replace the late and very great congressman who we loved and adored here at PDA and still do, Rahul Grijalva. And she'll tell us about the race. And she supports, as we do, and have officially endorsed Adelita Grijalva to win that seat. an election day, and ballots are dropping within the next week, I believe. By the way, somewhere along the lines, I'll probably say a word or two about the New York City mayoral race. We are going to be asking our members in New York City whether PDA should be endorsing Zohran Mamdani. That's pretty much going to be a straightforward, non-motivating question, but I will say here that I myself, if I lived in New York City, would not only be voting for Zohran Mamdani first, I would be out there walking precincts for him. And I hope that PDA members in New York City, PDA New York, and therefore Progressives for Democracy in America, or 501c4, can endorse Zohran for mayor, who is a very, very, very exciting prospect to defeat Cuomo, win the Democratic primary, and hopefully become mayor. That will be all hands on deck for all of us in the left to support a very, 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 very progressive mayor in New York, who's a fantastic candidate. And there's a lot of hope in that right now. And so, yes, we'll be hearing about the Block the Bombs Act from Representative Delia Ramirez. But right now, let's go to Mike Fox for our PDA to-dos for the week. And then we'll go over to Paul Stapleton Smith to introduce Mayor Romero. Mike Fox, what do we have for our to-dos? And also, I'll check to see if Donna Smith has joined us.
And Donna has joined us. And in regards to the good mayor, I am not seeing her name in the list of participants. We have someone with a different last name, same first name, so we may need for her to raise her hand so that we can get her co-hosted. But in any event, we'll make it happen. To-do number one is for us to get our buttons pushed right, evidently today. To-do number two, revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it. Each and every Sunday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, we are here. And we're glad that you are here, and we hope that you feel better as a result of being here. Know that this space is for people to support each other. And let's keep the comments in the chat reflective of that. To-do number two is, as always, take notes. We got a lot of to-dos going on here. You want to make sure that you can act upon those, okay? So from a time standpoint, time and treasure, that's the two categories of to-dos. From a time standpoint, number one, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank. We've got not only Adelita's campaign going on, we likewise have those June 14th events going on across the country. We likewise have our Healthcare is a Human Right issue organizing team call on Tuesday. And we want to make sure that that is packed because we have the leads for National Nurses United and Physicians for, I always get this wrong, Physicians for a National Healthcare Program, PNHP. Is going to be with us. So, and interesting topic, how all of this hellishness and the destruction of our healthcare system becoming even worse with the bill that's in the Senate right now, how that is incredibly negatively impacting our healthcare professionals' abilities to not only do their job, but stay healthy themselves. For heaven's sakes, it's just a horrifically stressful environment that they're in. So please do join us. I'll be tossing into the chat the link for Tuesday. But phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank. Number two, attend one of those events that we're talking about on the 14th, right? The No Kings events. I'll be tossing that link in the chat regularly. And please note, while Alan gave the website, most definitely, that's the right website. However, I'm going to be tossing a link in the chat that you're going to want to click on, because it's literally got a PDA code in there. And we just want to show all of our coalition members in this endeavor that, hey, PDA's in the game, definitely. So make sure that the link that you are using has PDA at the end of it, okay? All right. Lastly, time and treasure. Now, treasure. Our goal on this call isn't necessarily a dollar figure, it's a participation figure. Bottom line, solidarity is how we're going to make it through all of this. And so what we're looking for is give however much you can. $1, no worries. Just get in the game with us here. Time or treasure or both. double dipping. Double dippers rock. We got a lot of double dippers on this call, and thank you for that. And we'll be back at the top of the hour for where we're at on these goals, a couple other to-dos, and otherwise, back to you, Alan.
Thank you so much, Mike. And quickly before we go to Paul Stapleton Smith and we figure out if in fact Representative, sorry, the mayor is with us right now. Let me call on Donna Smith for your thoughts for the week, Donna.
Hi, Alan. How are you? It's good to see you. And it is disconcerting to be watching the news coming from Los Angeles, both because of the situation that's unfolding, but also in some sense how the media is handling the situation. The media, I always follow very closely because I was a newspaper editor many years ago. And telling the truth and without bias is something we sorely need in this country more of. It's very, very hard to get just the straight news. Alan, like you say, your neighborhood is safe in Los Angeles. But if you were to watch a lot of the major news outlets, it makes it sound like Los Angeles is on the brink of, of a horrible disaster. Now, the disaster is there, but I think the one that's unfolding is much more devious and disastrous to the democracy. Having 2,000 National Guard troops go in to quell a protest, talk about overkill. Wow. And to have them armed, fully armed. And, we all know how well trained or not well trained some people have been in terms of how to handle political protest. It's ridiculous. Anyway, we hope Los Angeles stays relatively calm, but we also hope you rise up against the ICE insurrection that's happening in your city. We hope that we see an example in Los Angeles of how do people stand up to this and say, no, not in our city, not in our great American city are we going to let this happen. And then finally, yes, on Tuesday, thank you, Mike Fox, for mentioning our healthcare call on Tuesday. We have Dr. Singh from PNHP, the president of PNHP. I met her many years ago, and she is just a dynamo to talk about moral injury. If you don't know PNHP, look up Physicians for a National Health Program, and you'll see that a screen comes up. They're taking in stories about moral injury from doctors and other healthcare providers. And they have taken in over 1,000 stories from people talking about their injuries. And it's not just the pandemic and what happened with the pandemic. It's the short staffing and Kathy Kennedy, the president of National Nurses United, will talk about how short-staffed nurses can be and what that does to your soul when you know more people could be helped and you can't do it. What does that do to your soul when someone is trained to be a healer and then they have to work within this system? It's such an important idea because we as patients, we often we don't get enough support in our healthcare system, but we often get the stories and the empathetic situations that are happening used as an example of the dysfunction of our healthcare system. But our doctors and our nurses are suffering greatly. The good ones are really suffering greatly, where they have, come in and have 10 minutes to spend with you before they have to be with the next patient. And I'll close with this. Years ago, Alan, I spoke on a panel at Yale University, and sitting next to me was a pediatric oncologist. And he was talking about what it was like to practice in this system and how debilitating it could be to him, where he'd have to map out hours after he was done seeing patients to call insurance companies and plead the cases for patients. And that sometimes when test results and information came in that he maybe could have called a patient about that evening when he got it, he waited. Because in his own heart and soul, he would know that either the insurance company was not going to approve the kind of care that that child needed for cancer, or the parents weren't going to be able to afford what they needed to do, any number of things. But when he talked about that and said he was thinking of leaving the medical profession, I thought, oh my God, here are these good people who have given their lives to this, and they're caring for us. So moral injury is a big issue in our system. It happens not only because of the pressures of the system, but the way we pay for healthcare in this country is a crime, and we all know it. So we need to change that. We need to try and keep Los Angeles safe. I watched the movie about Bob Dylan last night. I don't know if anybody else has watched that movie. Great movie. But it brought me back to that time in the 60s and the 70s when we were awakening to our protest mode. And Alan, I suspect that PDA has a very good leadership role to play in this, a very peaceful protest role. And I know that you will support that. So thank you, and back to you. Join us on Tuesday for the call.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And again, we'll return to the subject of Los Angeles and what's transpiring here. But right now, I'd like to bring forward Paul Stapleton Smith, who, of course, we are so always thrilled to work with Paul. And thank you, by the way, so much, Don. And yes, everybody should join us Tuesday for this call. And I'll say this actually before I throw to Paul. I was on a call with Central New Mexico PDA yesterday, and when people were talking about, how will you know when the Democratic Party is honestly progressive, and I'm just like, well, probably the primary litmus test is full support for Medicare for all. The manner in which that just impacts all Americans' lives and speaks to all Americans, I think, is profound and distinctive, and will save the society so much money and produce such a better life for everybody. So yes, let's all join that call on Tuesday. Hey, so Dan O'Neill is here and Paul Stapleton Smith is here, and Dan, has Mayor Ramiro joined us yet? And let's unmute Paul and unmute Dan. Hi.
And Alan, thank you. Actually, no, she's been called away, and we were just trying to reach her. Although, if I may, we have Eric Robbins here, who happens to be the Pima County Democratic Party chair, and also the chair of that entire race, the CD7 cross-county race. Of course, he's a PDA member, progressive member, and if you wouldn't mind terribly, he's prepared to say just a few words. We did an awful lot of good work on that race. If you don't mind, again, Eric Robbins, who's our esteemed progressive chair of the Pima County Democratic Party, and just marvelously effective at bringing these 5 counties, massive district together into a coordinated plan. So, Brother Eric Robbins, if you'd be so kind.
If we can unmute Eric Robbins, please, staff.
Eric should be able to unmute.
Please unmute him.
There we go. Can you hear me all right, everybody?
Hear you and see you. Welcome.
Oh, well, only one of those is going to help me, but I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. I always enjoy these sessions. I'm grateful to have a chance to speak on this race. This is clearly super important to Arizona, and I would argue the nation. So to the point, and I understand to the folks who are looking forward to seeing our beloved Mayor Regina Romero. I'm sure that she'll make it in a future instance. I understand that I'm a poor substitute, but I'll try to be both relevant and fairly succinct so that we can get on to other portions of the presentation. So for those of you who don't know me personally, my name is Eric Robbins. I'm the chair of the Pima County Democratic Party. This is my second cycle to serve in that capacity. I'm also honored and blessed to serve on what we call here in Arizona the Council of County Chairs. There are 15 counties in Arizona. The chair from each county belong to that council, and we are strongly and deeply united as a council in our own right. We call it the coordinated cross county plan, where we understand that there's players in this race both from the campaign specific side and the state level and even the national level. But we feel as county chairs, it is incumbent upon us to be unified, not only in our thinking and our commitment, but in our planning. And so we have a number of county chairs who are focused on this race. The CD7, held by the late and cannot be esteemed enough Raul Grijalva for over 20 years in Southern Arizona, but that district spans 6 counties in Arizona, and we have big counties out here. So that goes from the border, of Mexico all the way up into Maricopa, just south of Phoenix, all the way west out to Yuma. For those of you who know the state well, it's a gigantic, sprawling a district. It covers many rural communities. It covers tribal lands and sovereign lands for indigenous communities. And most importantly, perhaps for the Progressive Council, from my thinking, is CD7 is a VRA district, a Voting Rights Act district, sometimes referred to as a majority minority district, in that it is representative of, less, as represented by me myself, ironically, fewer doughy white folks like me, and more people, of the land, the native communities, again, Latino, Hispanic communities that represent this. So there's language issues. It is also characteristically one of the lowest turnout districts in the nation. Very, very difficult to get a lot of the voters motivated here. All that said, Raul Grijalva held the seat for 20 odd years because he was a progressive champion. He spoke to the people here. He transcended party lines. He did his own work in organizing for so many years, so successfully, that many people, the media included, have reached out to me for comment, and they say things like, well, this is a safe blue district. Raul held it for so long. And we have to acknowledge, we have lost Raul Grijalva, and that is a tremendous loss. And also, in these days and times, there is no such thing as a safe district. I refuse to even approach any race as though it can be considered safe. Not only are the times exigent, we have Nazis at the gates. We have to win everywhere that we can. We have to fight everywhere, in every rural community, in every indigenous community, in every underrepresented community. We have to fight, not only today, but all the way through the end. You say they run through the tape. And so all of those things I'm describing are typified and embodied by the commitment that is held by my fellow county chairs as we work on this. And we're working on the party building stuff. Again, I said we're not aligned specifically with a particular candidate per se. We're in a primary. We do not favor Democrats over Democrats. We expect a strong progressive candidate to come out of the primary, and then we're going to help them win. By God, we will help them win. And we're going to do that by all the things you would hope your local grassroots folks do. We're going to mobilize voters. We're going to engage and persuade and educate voters. We're going to leverage our allied groups by working with labor and legislative district organizations and activists. There is the Native Arizona Democrats, which represents a coalition across tribal lands, which is super, super important. We're going to do the work in the GOTV, the Get Out the Vote activities. We're going to coordinate with college Dems. All of this is part of the planning that the county chairs have put together for us. And, some of you may have caught wind of some of the stuff that's going on at the state level at ADP that sucks some of the oxygen out of the room. People are like, oh, Dems in disarray, and there's this stuff going on. And we want to acknowledge that, but also it doesn't dissuade us from our work, and it doesn't distract us from our work. It doesn't lessen our commitment. It heightens our commitment. So we have our own communications team that's made up of county people and professionals who work in that space that are helping us with our messaging. We're producing materials that are suitable for each county that have a very high quality and, high efficacy with voters and meeting voters where they are. And then we're going to be trying to coordinate the voter protection that comes down from a national level too, because we know that there's intimidation happening. Some of our counties are replete with MAGA Republicans in the election offices and at the Board of Supervisors. These are election deniers and people who just refuse to certify elections, and they allow intimidation to take place at the polls. And we're going to be on the ground fighting that from now until Election Day. That's my report. I know that was a lot of word salad, very quick, but I wanted to be mindful of the time. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I have a question for you that I think you're very well positioned to answer. This is actually
Okay.
down in the 7th District special election, where we're very concerned at Progressive Democrats of America that we are going to see an influx of money from dark money forces backing one of the candidates along the lines that we saw, particularly from United Democracy Project, which is the APEC affiliated PAC. So I can be partisan. You don't have to be partisan, but to be frank, supporting Daniel Hernandez's candidacy, and that the amount of money could be astronomical. What is your thoughts? And this is now back to nonpartisanship in your position about ways in which I feel that if the Democratic Party were to get dark money out of its primaries, even to the general public, that will show that we are a more honest Democratic Party than we've been. Small d Democratic Party, and a more honest Democratic Party than the Republican Party. Now, you don't want to bring, probably going to be hard to persuade Democratic Party activists that we should unilaterally disarm in the runoff stage of elections, the general elections against Republicans. but to do so within Democratic primaries. What are your thoughts about that? Do you support it? Or is there movement among the kind of people in roles like you have? Are you hearing about people wanting to see this happen? And what mechanism do you think it could be achieved by?
I'm so grateful that you brought that up. We just had our state committee meeting yesterday here in Arizona, and just to give people a little bit of context, not only am I firmly in the eat the rich camp, I have cookbooks. So if anybody wants to share recipes, I got you. Talk to me, Eric, Pima County Democratic Party. And so yesterday, so somewhat facetious aside, at our state committee
Metaphoric
meeting yesterday,
cannibalism, folks. But go ahead.
yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Eating the rich counts as self-care. So at our state committee meeting yesterday, Arizona Democrats passed by a significant margin a resolution to get big money out of our primaries. And there was a lot of work done by progressives in Arizona. It was a nationally newsworthy event. I believe it is the first in the nation that has ever been passed in that venture. We had support literally including from Bernie Sanders all the way down to Ro Khanna, people nationwide, local electeds that signed on to it at the local level, the grassroots level. It was led by the progressive, council here in Arizona to push that through, firmly embraced by the young Democrats. We've got strong young Democrat groups at the University of Arizona and at ASU, and they were all in to help make this happen. And it was mobilizing and energizing to them to see the party care enough about that particular issue to keep big money out of our primaries. And I'm proud that we did that in Arizona. It passed yesterday. It is now part of our body, and it's an example for the nation. And there are challenges that brings about. We acknowledge that. There's issues with sort of monitoring it and what do you do about it when it happens. But we're going to try to get all candidates to basically agree to a pledge that they will not accept large dollar donations beyond a certain amount. We've tried to design it so it scales per the size of the race, so there's some parity and logic to how it gets applied. But it is exactly at that, to get millionaires and billionaires and big money out of our primaries, stop influencing our elections. It's about people and power, not about dollars.
Well, I am going to follow this closely. Thank you, and huge props. Huge props. I've been telling people about the Arizona Democratic Party. People say it's in disarray. I think it's in disarray because the progressives are so darn strong in the state of Arizona that they're making the moderate neoliberal faction of the Democratic Party's knees weak. Dan and Paul, do you want to add anything? And then, of course, we should go to Delia Ramirez and the Block the Bomb Act if, in fact, Mayor Ramiro is unable to join us.
And if I may, very quickly, Brother Minsky, so indeed there was a family emergency. I was just texting and talking to the mayor, and she came to a successful conclusion with that. And then I said that we would hope to have her back at a future date that was amenable to everybody. Otherwise, I always defer to our esteemed Progressive Council Chair Emeritus Dan O'Neill for any final words.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. And I just want to underscore what Eric said about the historic significance of the vote yesterday. It was overwhelming. It was the loudest yes vote I've heard in years and years and years to get dark money out of politics, out of the primaries here in Arizona. And moving forward, I think we're going to have a lot of struggle and debate over how to make that happen. But I think we're going to do it. And it's the first, from what we understand, the first state party in the country to pass such a resolution. So Arizona, we're proud of you. Yep.
Arizona presente, Eric Roberts, and Raul Grijalva presente.
Yeah, last point. I appreciate you giving me a second. What I want to go ahead and say, and just to make this clear to people, we understand that there's stuff going on at the state level. The county parties are doing the work. We had T-shirts made for the council of county chairs yesterday that showed up at our SCM that said, "We are the secret sauce." If anybody wonders how it's happening in Arizona, it's a grassroots level because that's where power comes from and that's where the power belongs. And we're proud to represent, and we're going to try to continue to do a good job on that. Thanks so much for giving me a minute, everybody.
Thank you, Eric. And by the way, let everybody know down in Arizona to join our PDA Town Halls and to join with PDA. There's no membership dues in this organization yet and now, and we'll see how that goes for the foreseeable future. But just everyone can join.
Let me just add that PDA was a signature of the resolution, and Alan Minsky, our executive director, was also one of the people who signed on in support of the resolution yesterday. So again, thank you, Eric, and thank you, Paul. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul Stapleton Smith, as always. Thank you, Eric. It's great to have you on mic and on camera, and same for you, Dan O'Neill. Look, now, obviously, when we put out the email about the Block the Bombs Act, we didn't foresee that anything would happen that would in any way decenter that from being the centerpiece of this call. And so as we segue to Palestine and Gaza, and by the way, Laura Lucero is with us, staff, if we can make Laura a co-host. And Laura, if you can, before we hear from Delia Ramirez, and while we're hearing from Delia, if you can bring up on your screen the information you sent out the other day about how people can contact their congresspeople in coordination with Delia Ramirez's office, asking their congresspeople to become co-signers on the Block the Bomb Act. 22 members of Congress became co-signers. Now, again, obviously, and I do somewhat always apologize when I myself, being in California, find myself leading this call around California issues. But it's my understanding is that nationally and internationally, what's transpiring in LA is the top story. Dislodging, and I'll say this actually, I know a lot of people have a lot of fun with the Elon Musk and Donald Trump thing. For the most part, my political analysis is that's bread and circuses for the masses. I'm not that caught up in that kind of conflict between these two absolute asses, one of whom's president, one of them is the richest man in the world, or so they say. And though by non-financial means, obviously a man who lives with a lot of moral poverty. But Palestine and Gaza, in the past few days, there hasn't been the kind of massacre that occurred twice in the last 10 days to dominate global headlines. That doesn't mean that the ongoing starvation of the people of Gaza is not continuing. The expansion of settlements is not continuing in the West Bank. Violence towards Palestinian residents in the West Bank. The lack of human rights, civil rights, political rights, basic rights at all for Palestinians within greater Israel and Palestine is nowhere near a level that all human beings should possess and have as a birthright. And what's transpiring in Gaza is in front of the whole world one of the most horrible slaughters of human beings and treatment of a large block of humans that we've seen in our lifetime. And of course, all of that is not to in any way forgive what transpired on October 7th, the murder of Israelis down in southern Israel, the taking of hostages. But the response is not that it should be commensurate, because I don't believe in responding to violence with violence, but hasn't been commensurate. It's been extreme. It's been overwhelming. The power of the Israeli state as a military engine compared to anything that the residents of Gaza have to fight back is such an imbalance as to be, not even worthy of conversation. It's a slaughter, and the United States is complicit in it. And the Block the Bombs Act is the strongest piece of legislation that's been introduced in Congress yet to directly address what every geopolitical analyst in the world knows, and every person knows who puts their mind to the reality of the situation, is that the one country that can end this is the United States, other than the government of Israel, is the United States of America. They can't continue because no one's going to provide them with the weapons to do what they're doing other than the United States of America. Certainly not the level that they're doing it. And even as bad as, say, the German government's position has been, it's not as bad as the American government's position has been. And time again, the United States, inside the UN Security Council, blocks any political ramifications and geopolitical direct ramifications for the state of Israel. So we in the United States are unique in the degree of complicity we have with this. And it's understood that the one thing that will change things, even more than any shift in terms of the political support of the United States, is the delivery of weapons. So much as Cori Bush, and I think we must appreciate the courage of the person we're about to hear from. Now, because of her schedule, we had to pre-record her contribution to our town hall. But much like Cori Bush, Delia Ramirez has stepped out to the front with a statement of moral leadership, which is her introduction of the Block the Bombs Act. And so now I would like to play my dialogue with Delia Ramirez. And just keep in mind, you are watching a true moral leader and hero who is in the U.S. Congress today. So Mike and Mike, if we can run the dialogue I had with Delia. We can't hear it. We need Mike's volume on. Can people hear this, Mike Fox?
Nope.
No, can't hear a thing, Alan.
I could run it off of my computer. Want me to give it because I have it queued up? And how do I share screen here? Share screen. Allow. Boom. Share. And let's see if this works. And hello, Alan Minsky here, Executive Director, Progressive Democrats of America, and I'm joined by really one of the exceptional politicians in the country and up on Capitol Hill, of course, Representative Delia Ramirez from the Chicago metro area, from Chicagoland. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? I'm glad to be with you.
And this is especially important for us because a piece of legislation was introduced yesterday, which is the Block the Bombs Act, which was introduced by Representative Ramirez, and I believe with 21 or 22 co-sponsors.
21, Scott. 21. Yeah, 21 more. Yeah.
And tell us about the legislation. And it is, of course, it is a seminal piece of legislation in that the tragedy that is unfolding continues to unfold in Gaza and in Palestine. Many of us analysts, of course, feel that the most important thing that can be done to impact it is that the United States of America stop sending weapons to Israel. So tell us exactly what the sorry I've been interrupted, what the Block the Bombs Act is.
Yeah, no, thank you, Alan. I mean, you and I have been watching. It's been almost 2 years of devastation. You've heard clearly from Netanyahu that he's escalating a ground invasion of Gaza and starvation of Palestinians. There are thousands of children who are just days from starving to death from the blockade. Bibi Netanyahu is using starvation as a weapon of war. It's unconscionable, it's despicable. And frankly, now he has his buddy Donald Trump, who together are an extremist duo. For us, this legislation, not a resolution, but an actual act, is really important for this time right now. Block the Bombs Act, what it does, it actually withholds a set of offensive arms from being sent to Netanyahu. And it puts the onus on Congress to provide the oversight that you and I both know we should be providing. In this time when you have an extremist fascist as a president of the United States, coupled with the fascists in Israel, we need to be able to put in all the safeguards we can and all the oversight necessary. So what this bill does, in essence, blocks the sending of these arms that you and I both know there is evidence upon evidence that have been used to kill Palestinian innocent lives, Palestinian children. It's really important for me to also note to you, Alan, that for me it was important to have a coalition on this bill. You and I both know that the idea that we can stand for the self-determination and the lives of Palestinians oftentimes has been weaponized and has called us all sorts of things. It was important to have a diverse group of members of Congress, and for it to be 22 members of Congress, co-led by Sarah Jacobs, a Jewish leader, right, in California, who serves in foreign affairs and serves in armed services, was really important for me as well as having Mark Pocan, Lloyd Doggett, Greg Casar, Maxwell Frost, of course, and the ones that you know have always stood with us, Rashida Tlaib, our leader here, Summer Lee, and many others. It was really important for that. And then I say to you the other piece of that. I mean, the point for us is, bottom line, it's common sense legislation, Alan, and people should see that as what it is. What we're saying is Netanyahu and Donald Trump cannot violate U.S. international and human rights law. That's what this bill is about. So for people that are asking you, why this bill and what is this going to do? And it's going to only further the war. It is quite the opposite. Because what you and I have seen, the escalation of violence around the world and certainly in the US, it really comes back to what's happening and our inaction in this moment. So basically, and for people that need to know, what we're doing with this bill is withholding these offensive weapons and creating oversight mechanisms that if at any point Donald Trump wants to come and try to convey to Congress that a certain set of these weapons need to be used, they will have to go through a system of oversight in which Congress would then also have to approve in order to happen. These are the checks and balances that we should all be fighting for. Block the Bombs Act bill is a critical bill for this moment. And Alan, we need every single member of Congress, especially on the Democratic side, to join.
Thank you, and I do want to also uplift Jan Schakowsky as a Jewish self-identified American. You know, for years there was the McCollum Act, and we worked, and Jan Schakowsky's office was always in dialogue with us, trying to draw a Jewish American member of Congress into support. And so Jan Schakowsky is a co-signer.
Jan Schakowsky and Becca Balin are both on the bill as well. So they're original co-sponsors of the bill, and I really want to highlight them. Jan stood with me in the press conference as well.
Yeah, love Jan Schakowsky. And thank you for that. And what can we do as an organization on the outside to uplift this? And we will do a lot to uplift this because we think we supported, you know, what you signed on to with Cori Bush's bill in the last Congress. And we want to herald this. We want to get the world to recognize it. It does seem around the world that the dam is breaking. Just yesterday, the president of Brazil spoke out. The former prime minister of Italy spoke out. And people are demanding an end to the violence and the slaughter in Gaza. And how can we uplift and support this bill?
Yeah, like Alan, I said in the press conference yesterday, we're all interconnected. You have a fascist president here that is literally trying to kill people by cutting their Medicaid, taking their SNAP benefits, and sending wars of weapons to starve children in Palestine. It's all interconnected. So I think for me, it's really important that as you all are talking to people, as you're talking to members of Congress, so the first thing you should do, call members of Congress, talk to them about this bill, what this bill does and what this bill does not do. Because you and I both know that AIPAC and all these right-wingers that have no interest in seeing peace will twist it around in every possible way they can and weaponize, right, as they always do, and call it anti-Semitic. This bill is about peace and choosing peace over war. This bill is about making sure that there is oversight and that Congress actually asserts it. So I need you all to help me start mobilizing people. Talk about what the bill does, why it's so important. And I think, Alan, to your point, the world is watching. The world is watching our inaction and our complicity. This is a way for members of Congress to take action. Action that perhaps you and I both know, as we co-led the ceasefire resolution almost 2 years ago introduced, that some of us are on, but now more can be on this bill. Stopping these offensive weapons that are literally killing children in schools that have become shelters in Gaza. This is what they could be doing. So making those phone calls, talking to local people, making sure they're hearing directly from their constituents, and making sure that on social media as well, you are spreading the information, amplifying the importance of this bill and the action that people can be taking this precise moment.
My understanding is that you have been to Palestine and that you have learned directly about communities there. And could you tell us a little bit about your experiences in Palestine?
Yeah, Alan, I have mentioned this to you before. For me, my trip with the United Methodist Church and a 90-person delegation to study the conflict in Israel and Palestine fundamentally changed me. To see those security points, to see the occupation in my face, to be called a terrorist, frankly, dozens, hundreds of times in my time there. But also to understand that there are Israeli and Palestinian people who want to live in peace, who care deeply about each other's self-determination, and recognize that the U.S. has played a complicit role in this moment. Was really important for me to be able to see that. Because oftentimes, Alan, when you hear from people, particularly, I'm not Palestinian, I'm not Jewish, I'm not Muslim, why do you want to get involved? It's such a complex issue. It doesn't really affect you. Well, you and I both know that we are globally connected to each other, and what is happening in Gaza impacts me every single day in the same way that what's happening in Sudan impacts us every day, or it happens in Salvador, Guatemala, or our border. We're all interconnected. But to know that in this moment, we are using our taxpayer dollars to illegally allow a fascist in Israel to continue to put the life of everyone in danger is unconscionable, it's despicable. And for me, this is not about terminology, about complexity. It's about, are you for peace? Are you for war? Are you for protecting children or are you for killing children? It's as simple as that. And Rashida Tlaib says this over and over. We can't see a difference between children. Children are children. We should be fighting to protect every single child in every corner of the world, and that includes Gaza.
Thank you so much. And so most certainly, and from my point of view, I want to share with you that the most important thing for me and for PDA is the end to the misery, end to the death, end to the slaughter transpiring in Gaza. But also personally, as a Jewish self-identified American, I want to even echo the New York Times journalist Tom Friedman in saying that what is transpiring right now is, of course, the accusations leveled against someone like myself that somehow what I'm doing is anti-Semitic. No, it's absolutely the contrary. What is transpiring is translating into something that is terrible for Jews around the world, and peace is the best thing that we can do to support the Jewish people around the world. So personally, I really, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you for introducing this bill. And I know you have a really busy day, but I really, we're going to do right when this call is over on our town hall, we're going to go right to organizing support, mobilizing to call all of our Congress people in support of the Block the Bombs Act. Thank you so much, Representative Delia.
Yeah, appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. And there we go. I trust that everybody heard that.
Yes.
Good. That's good. Oh my, Delia, look, I cannot say enough about Delia Ramirez. And I know through having met both of them that she is very close with Summer Lee. And boy, talk about two excellent members of Congress. And I can't say enough about Delia Ramirez after having spoken to her on this bill and for her introduction of the bill. Another person who I have tremendous esteem for is our Central New Mexican, in fact, New Mexican State Coordinator, Laura Lucero, who has actually experience in Palestine herself as well. And I'd like to just tag team a little bit with Laura here as I promised we would, to Representative Ramirez, that we mobilize now everybody on this call to call their representatives and ask them to become co-sponsors of the Block the Bombs Act. And I also, too, I want to encourage everybody right now. I'm going to try to set my view on the view where I can see the most people at once. There we go. Everybody, let's put a little heart sign for Delia Ramirez right now. This is being recorded. And I just absolutely love what she has done. If people don't know how to do that, you go to the react thing down below and just, hit the heart button right now for Delia. Because I know that the heat that AIPAC and the Israel lobby what's called the Israel lobby, is put upon members of Congress who speak out on this is ferocious and horrible and terrible. And this is done clearly out of the love of Representative Ramirez's heart and all of our hearts as well, as we want to see peace for the Palestinian people. We want to see justice for all peoples of the world, and we want to see an end to the violence in Israel and Palestine. And the United States, through its policies, is perpetuating that violence. And so now we call upon all of you to follow Laura and myself in understanding how to contact your congressperson and ask them to sign on. Only 22 members have signed on. And it is, we want to get at least another 190 Democrats. And I think there might be a few Republicans we could draw in. Laura Lucero, how do we contact our congresspeople and ask them to become co-sponsors for the Block the Bombs Act?
Thank you, Alan. This is an amazing opportunity for all of us in PDA, but as well as for the world. And she was such an excellent communicator. I have 9 specific ways that we can activate ourselves to help her, but
Mhm.
she gave me a 10th.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go through all 9 plus 10, and I'm going to ask everybody to take out your pen and paper, just like Mike Fox said at the beginning. This is homework, and we're going to do all 10, I hope. And I'm going to start from the easiest. I'm from New Mexico, and we have done all of these 10 that I'm going to refer to. And maybe some of you have already done many of these too, and I'd like to hear if you have other ideas in addition to the 10. But I'm going to start from the easiest and then work down to the most time intensive. Of course, the easiest is, as Representative Ramirez was asking us, is to send a message to Congress. And there is if you look at the link I just posted, blockthebombs.org, there is a pre-prepared message. You put in your address and send it off to your members of Congress. And that's the easiest thing to do. So I encourage each of you to go to blockthebombs.org and do that. Number 2, share that link with others, your family, your friends, and others in your PDA group to do this very same thing. Let's get lots of letters going in to members of Congress. Now, the third one, and she asked for phone calls, and I really believe phone calls make a huge difference. But she said, make your phone calls. I'm saying make them every day, daily, to your members of Congress. And we'll post in a minute who has sponsored and who has not. So you'll be thanking those who have sponsored the 22, I believe, but you'll be asking, like I'm from New Mexico, my representative, Melanie Stansberry, has not yet signed on. So my message is going to be very different, asking her, urging her, demanding that she sign on as a co-sponsor to House Resolution 3565. So that's a phone call. That's number 3, doing it every single day. Don't think you can get away with just doing it once. And then the fourth one is ask everybody else to make that phone call too. That's number 4.
And there's one number for the congressional switchboard. And I know Mike Fox and maybe Mike Olas have that handy. Can we drop that number into the House? Unlike the Senate, has one number for switchboard. You call it up and you ask for the office of your congressperson, and they put you through. And so a live person picks up when you call through during business hours, unless their phone lines are clogged at that moment. But generally,
that's one way to do it. But I would urge everybody on this call to find the direct number to your DC office and put it on speed dial, because you're going to be calling every day. And you should know your DC office number in your phone. But yes, if somebody can post that number here in the chat, that would be helpful.
The link that's been already posted is the one that does exactly what you're asking for, Laura. Okay, literally, folks can go directly to their House reps, their website. There's the DC number. Then that also gives them the connection to the website where they can call local numbers as well, just because.
Excellent.
But I put the number in right. That 224-3121 is the general number, right, Mike?
I don't have it tattooed on me. Hope so.
Okay, I'll look it up too. Thanks. Okay, go ahead, Laura. Keep going.
Okay, so that was number 4. But when you ask others to do it, prepare an action alert to help others with their communication. And in New Mexico, we use action alerts with our PDA folks. We send it out to our list. We have a list of hundreds, actually. It's over 1,000 now, of PDA folks who get these action alerts. And we lay out exactly what the points are that we hope they'll be communicating. So we don't give just a phone number to call. We tell them, this is the message that we hope you'll give. And I want to give a little bit of anecdotal evidence about why phone calls are so important. I've been to DC a number of times to lobby in the DC office. And one day, a few months ago, I was in Senator Lujan's outer office in DC waiting for my meeting. And I overheard the receptionist answering the phone, and her end of the conversation, it was clearly about Gaza. I didn't know who was calling her, but she was talking about Gaza. She was asking for the caller's name and contact information. She was writing down a note about what the caller was saying. And then she was, thanking her for the information. So that tells me that they're taking, at least in Lujan's office, but I think in most offices, they're taking these calls seriously and making notes about them. Another anecdotal piece of evidence, I was in Representative Stansberry's DC office, and their staff told me that they hear from both sides of the issue almost every day, and they provide the number of calls on each side to the Congresswoman. So that's why it's so important to get the numbers of calls going in, not just saying what the message is, but just the numbers of calls. And then the staff person in Representative Ledger Fernandez's office, she's also from New Mexico, they told me that they provide a summary of our calls each day to the Congresswoman with a one sentence, this is what this caller was talking about. So they really are paying attention to constituents, at least from New Mexico. And that's, I would imagine, in your jurisdictions as well. So these calls make a very big difference, I think. Okay, so number 5 of my to-do list, echoing what Mike Fox says all the time, write letters to the editor and or op-ed pieces. And there's a lot that I could share and links, and I'd be happy to talk with anybody about how to do it. And probably many of you are even more experienced about doing this. But use the material from the fact sheets that I'm going to put into the chat here. They're provided by IMEU and other groups giving facts about this bill. And you can actually lift up the facts and put them into your letters to the editor and your op-ed pieces. They don't mind that at all. So I encourage you to write that. And then number 6, I encourage you to get all of your friends to write letters to the editor. Now, I'll tell you a secret, but don't tell anybody else this. A lot of people, at least in New Mexico, thank you. A lot of people in New Mexico, they want to send a letter to the editor, but they don't want to take the time to write it, or they feel the issue is too complicated and they don't have enough information to really write a letter to the editor. So I write the letter for them. And I actually have written many letters to the editor, not under my name, but I give them to my friends and let them massage it so that it works for them. So for number 6, encourage others to write the letters to the editor and sometimes even write it for them if you need to. There's no shame in getting lots of letters to the editor, even if your name isn't on it. Number 7. Visit your local office of the member of Congress. And we've done that in New Mexico too. Our PDA chapter in New Mexico is part of a larger coalition, including Jewish Voice for Peace, university groups, and others on Palestine. It's called the New Mexico Alliance for Peace and Justice in Palestine. And we have organized press conferences in front of our members of Congress in New Mexico. And the one thing I'll say about these press conferences, we don't get a lot of media, which I'm very nervous and worried about. Why isn't the media covering our press conferences as well as we think they should? But we make it very visible and noticeable to the public. So every press conference we have, we're out in front of their offices, not inside their offices, and we're trying to make it very visible with signs and everything else to let the public know what we're doing. And so that's number 7, really get in front of your member of Congress. And if they have local town halls, or if they organize fundraisers back in your community, get yourself to those meetings and raise your hand and raise the issues that we're talking about. And House Resolution 3565, Block the Bomb, should be the one that we're all talking about this week and next. Number 9 on my list. Create a fact sheet and an action alert. Use very eye-catching graphics and distribute this action alert or this fact sheet at events in your town hall, such as farmers markets and others. I'm sure you all attend different activities in your community. Use those activities as a launching for educating the public about these issues and about Block the Bomb Act. And then that's number 9, the last one, and this is one that I just heard from, or I just got from Representative Ramirez when she was talking with Alan. She said, use your social media. Well, yes, we do use our social media, but I forgot to even include that in our list. And so I'd like to ask Alan right now, if you would do a small clip of just Delia speaking about her legislation.
That can't happen.
And then we'll put it up, all of us in our different PDA chapters on our social media, and we'll get her speaking to many, many, many hundreds of other people.
I love it. Yes is the answer. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's my list of 10 items, if anybody was writing it down, and I would be happy to put a little, oh, thank you, Alan. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, everybody who's on the call, because 12 years ago, I was in Gaza. I lived in Gaza for 9 months teaching university students about climate change. And I really got to know Gaza unlike anything I had ever read in a book, anything I had experienced in my Arabic classes at the university. Getting to know the people and spending time with them is something that I hope all of us will have a chance to do someday, because it's unlike any other experience I've had in my life. And it's what motivates me now. I think this is the defining moment that we have, not just in our country, but in the world, to move our human consciousness to a new place. And the Palestinians are showing us the way. So thank you very much for helping me and letting me share my homework assignment.
Thank you so much. I did an interview this week with the legendary journalist Robert Scheer. For people who don't know Robert Scheer, well, there's many ways he's had an incredible career. Interviewed most of the presidents of the United States, I think up until George W. Bush, all of them he had interviewed. And he was the editor of Ramparts magazine when the My Lai massacre broke through Ramparts magazine. So one of those legendary progressive journalists. And we did an interview about, Jewish self-identified Americans opposing Israel's actions and speaking out about it, a series of interviews he did. So I did that with him. And I just encourage everybody to step up their activities as peace activists. The truth is that, and it's understandable why this has happened, right? The pressure that the Trump administration has placed upon Palestinian rights activists and peace activists speaking out against the violence in Gaza has obviously been extreme. The highest profile examples of this, of course, are the arrests and deportations of activists, many of whom were active on college campuses. Obviously, the administration's effective prosecution of universities for being, quote unquote, soft on anti-Semitism because they allowed demonstrations to take place there. But here's the thing. In 1969, when Richard Nixon was elected, the anti-Vietnam War movement did not stall. In fact, I think the largest days of activism for the anti-Vietnam War movement were yet to come. And I know it's very difficult to say, it's easy to say anything, right? It's always easy to, in active language, to say something. But we have to think about how we revamp this at this point with the barriers as they are. And it's a real pressing moral issue of our time. By the way, I don't know if everybody noticed, but a year after a bunch of Academy members and actors and producers castigated the German filmmaker who had won that film about the daily life of the people who ran the Auschwitz camp. And he won for the best foreign picture, and he made a statement of solidarity with the Palestinian people, and he was condemned by all these different people who, not that many really famous actors or producers or directors, but a very long list of people in Hollywood who condemned the whole thing as anti-Semitic. A year later, a documentary by the voters of the Academy won for the best documentary. And it was the film made by Israeli and Palestinian filmmakers about the realities of life, I believe, in the occupied territories, but primarily the West Bank. And I'm spacing out on the name of both films. I'm so sorry. But what that showed, and the victory of that documentary, was a group of people, the Academy voters, who are getting pummeled and being told any show of solidarity, the wearing of a pin, is anti-Semitic, right? They know in their hearts what's transpiring there is wrong. By the way, yes, a very high percentage of the people who undoubtedly voted for this Israeli-Palestinian film to win as the best documentary were Jewish, okay? But see, people are tired of this pummeling and getting beat up by the Israeli lobby forces, these reactionary forces like AIPAC. And I think that is not untrue about Congress members. And so with a Congress member like Melanie Stansbury, with a Congress, whoever your congressperson is, I did speak to a progressive member of Congress who's at the heart of this struggle not long ago. I don't want to put words in people's mouths or quote incorrectly, so I'm not going to say their name. In person, I was there with William Walter in their office just about a month ago, and they said, it's not just the money in the campaigns that can keep people silent, it's the bullying. And the bullying is extreme. And when people do not like being bullied, okay? And for what it's worth, maybe Republicans sort of enjoy this because they seem to be in lockstep with Trump, but Democrats less so, even moderate Democrats, less so than apparently Republicans do. And this could turn very quickly. And are pressuring the Congress people to do the right thing, to stand up to Netanyahu, to stand up to Trump. And that's probably a not bad way to frame it. I know many people on the call feel the critique of Israel is such that it goes well beyond Netanyahu, et cetera. But we have an opportunity right now to appeal to people who are getting bullied, and they probably know what the right thing to do is. And so let's make a real effort here to support the bravery of Representative Ramirez that we heard from, a great organizer, and clearly a person who's dedicated her life to moral actions such as Laura Lucero. And let's do this, folks. Let's contact our Congress people. Let's ask them to support the Block the Bombs Act. It's a strong enough piece of legislation that it would be a dam breaker if we start collecting and more people signing on. And look, and if we don't, we'll learn more about reading the situation as it really exists. So, Donna Smith, what's on your mind?
Well, I was thinking because we had a kind of a horror story here in Colorado last week, as many people heard about the attack in Boulder, oh my gosh, the media. This is another media bias, Alan, that was really extreme. That this is one act by one man who was clearly not right, and it was a horrible thing. There's no way any of us would condone anything like that. But now the media comes forward with this, it's this terribly biased view of the whole situation in Gaza and Israel now, impacted by, that these people were just peaceful protesters protesting for the memory of the hostages in Gaza. Okay, that's great, that's wonderful, but this does not mean that every left thinking person, they've called him a lefty, the guy who did this, and it's terrible, that branding of those of us who want peace. When you talk about bullying, that's one aspect of bullying. is that, all of us who want peace, then we're branded as being anti-Jewish or anti-Israeli. It's just not true. We just don't want the kids and the people in Gaza to die like this. It's horrible. So any suggestions on how, because I'm looking to see, could I ever get Joe Neguse to get on the bill? Could I ever get Jason Crow to get on the bill? Probably not now, for sure. And Diana DeGette, the bullying would be extreme, I would think.
Well, obviously one of the things is, we're living this time where the breaking news, and by the way, I apologize to people who are raising their hands. We're going to have to take a stack after we get through one or two more agenda items, then we'll open up to everything. And I understand this is a pressing issue, but as it was, as is the situation in Los Angeles. But who could think that the horror show in Gaza and also the terrible murders in the Jewish Museum and what happened in Boulder, that these things could be, moved on from quickly, but then something like Los Angeles happens, and then, even Musk and Trump aren't at the top of the headlines anymore, right? And so I think things move quickly. The nature, look, I don't doubt that while Los Angeles and Musk and Trump are dominating the headlines, that there's not horrors still transpiring in Gaza. I'm sure there are these past weeks, but they don't make the headlines because they don't raise to the level of atrocity of the shooting on the people trying to get food, which happened twice in a matter of days, or for that matter, shooting at international diplomats, etc. I mean, the level of atrocity there is so high that the standard terror of each day becomes normalized. But we're just in this rapid fire time. And so I understand for a while, Colorado politicians are probably going to be overly sensitive to the matter. How long that will last in light of the horror show, who knows, right? But yeah, no, of course, I think people have to judge. By the way, I don't want to, again, put words in anybody's mouth who I was working in confidence with as work was being developed. But certain things were delayed recently in terms of their release because of what happened at the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., and then again what happened in Boulder. Because that's just the way the world works and how it has to be right now. I saw Summer Lee speak in person. We did a co-fundraiser together, and her sensitivity towards the Jewish community was exemplary as she spoke, I felt. And she's a brilliant, sensitive, caring, loving congressperson, an exceptional person, a great congressperson. Did a great interview this week with Mehdi Hassan. People can watch. But she, being from Pittsburgh, I think learned clearly how to speak to the tragedy that had occurred there. And that's the experience people have. So yeah. Anyway, we're past the top of the hour, and Laura Lucero, thank you. I hope everybody took notes like I did. And thank you, Donna Smith. And let's move over to Mike Fox with our PDA to-dos. Then we'll go to quickly talk about June 14th. And then I'll introduce Angelica Duenas, who's here in Los Angeles with me, just to get her reflections. Angelica was a multi-PDA endorsed congressional candidate who is now working with me I'm working with her as she develops a PDA Espanol outreach program. So Mike, take it away.
Yes, sir. All right. Looking at the clock, I will try to make this as brief as possible here, but I got to get our number one to do at the top of the second hour as always. Thank yous. The following people have donated today. Thank you so much. That includes phone banker Mary Ellen double dipping, and Becky and Peter, and phone banker Erica and David, phone banker Michael and Jairo, and phone banker Bill, and phone banker Beverly. Look at all these double dippers. And Lorna, and phone banker Mary, and phone banker Rick, phone banker Michael, Jan, Deborah, phone banker Aaron, Jody, and Neil, and Quincy, and Mary, and Phone banking Dr. Deutsch, double dipping Dr. Deutsch. Thank you, brother, as always. And Debbie and Darwin. Oh, by the way, Darwin, thank you so much for your more than kind $100. You're the largest donor today. Anybody who can match Darwin, please do. If you can do more than that, wonderful. Even with all these kind folks, we're behind on this element of our event here today. So thank you, Darwin. Anybody who can show solidarity with Darwin at $100 or more, I'll match the first $100 or more donation. And thank you, Jason, and thank you, Dr. Sonneborn, double dipping Dr. Sonneborn, and Robert, and phone banker Michael. Again, thank you, and phone banker Michael in Ohio. We got a lot of mics. And the guy that starts this off every single week, Michael in Chicago. Thank you so much. All right, so I'll be tossing into the chat here the link to donate, the link to volunteer. We're still about 9 people short on the volunteer. So pdamerica.org/volunteer. Hit it, hit it, hit it. We got to get in the game for our endorsed candidates. As well as pushing folks out to these June 14th events. Do you want me to do a quick June 14th, Alan, or do you want Mike Olis to do that?
Let's do that together right after you wrap everything else.
All right, I'm wrapped. Let's move.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just writing somebody back. Biden's policy position on Gaza. Okay. Yes, June 14th, Mike Olis, Mike Fox. What's going on? I hear something's going on around the country.
Indeed, I'll start just because, and then Michael, let's chime in, please. Literally, well over 1,000 events across the country. We've all heard about it up to this point. Now we got to make it happen. Same time as the ridiculousness going on in DC, the big birthday party, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll toss the link into the chat where you can sign up. You can still host an event. If you go to that sign up first, you'll see the map. And if there isn't anything near you, then go ahead and host something. And it doesn't have to be something complex. Seriously, if it's 10 people on a street corner, no permits required, no PAs required, etc., do it. Make it happen. And then just let us know at info@pdamerica.org if you are a part of a management team for one of those events, and we'll see if we can't get the phone team showing solidarity with you. That's all I got. Mike Olis, what do you want to pile on with, brother?
Mike Olis is, can we unmute Mike?
One said that may have been a surprise, and no worries. Did Mike conceivably have to drop off? Possibility. It doesn't look like he's with us yet anymore. No worries, no worries. Busy man. So closing, I'm going to put into the chat the 2 links. The one is to sign up, check out the map, boom, click on the dot near you and register for that sucker. And it's really important to register, gang. It truly is, because just from an organizing standpoint, people on the ground who are trying to get this thing together really need to have a firm grasp of how many folks are going to show up, so that they have a feel for, okay, how many security types do we need there? How many signs do we need? Blah, 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 all that good stuff. So make sure that you register and then connect with that primary organizer. Whenever you sign up, you'll get an email that says, hey, thanks for signing up. And you're able to reply to the primary organizer. Get to know them. They're obviously a very active person in your area, right? You're going to want to get to know them. Like I say, if you are in an area that doesn't have an event, you want to do something with 10 or 15 people, cool. Click on the second link and that will take you directly to where you register an event, right? And then contact info@pdamerica.org and we'll see how we can help make it happen. Okay. That's all I got, Alan.
Well, I have something else to share with people. My daughter's done a whole bunch of different graphic images. She's an art student at an art high school. And I believe people can see my screen, right? And that's just one of them. That's an early draft of it, actually. So there, I'm sort of mistaken. I'll stop sharing my screen. Anyway, the phrases are from Denali to the Gulf of Mexico, America will not be ruled by kings. And then there's one that has the sort of image of the Constitution and we the people. And then will never be ruled by a king. Then there's one which has Woody Guthrie on it, which again uses that from Denali to the Gulf of Mexico as if it was from, the redwood trees to the Gulf Stream waters, right? This land this land is my land, this land is your land by Woody Guthrie. It says from Denali to the Gulf of Mexico, we will never be ruled by kings. And then finally, very apt for Los Angeles these days, the fourth one she designed with images that go along with the Statue of Liberty and the image of a king being dethroned is the America I know welcomes migrants and expels tyrants. So we're going to probably get little PDA plugs on those and send them out to everybody. They have been accepted without the PDA plug as part of the art for the nokings.org event. And Mike Fox, you've put into the chat correctly the No Kings link that you want everybody to click on for us.
Yes, sir.
That's great. And now, staff, if we can find Angelica Duenas, assuming she's still with us, and we can unmute Angelica, if she's with us still. I know she was here earlier. She was going to also just say a few words about, here it is. Please unmute Angelica, and just your thoughts on what's happening here in Southern California. For people who don't remember, Angelica Duenas was I think 3 times endorsed PDA candidate for the U.S. Congress in a district that was held by a do-nothing Democrat, and she came very close to winning on a couple of those occasions, but alas, unfortunately, did not. And she is now doing work with PDA in Southern California, and we've been in touch constantly over the past 48 hours. Angelica, your thoughts on what's transpiring?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today, Alan. I think it's just horrific. It's something that we haven't seen in a very long time, to see the brutalization of a whole people, and so we're seeing raids, indiscriminate raids of people being taken away, and we have heard of children being arrested on their way to school. A 14-year-old boy on a Saturday morning was arrested on his way to volleyball practice. We've had reports of elementary school graduation ceremony that also was raided by ICE, where there was so much chaos that children were left behind because parents panicked and ran away. We're hearing about buses of people who are being transported to my local airport here, right next door, which is the Burbank Airport, through the backside. We've been there 2 days in a row where we saw these buses going up to airplanes. And on day 2, they moved it way over so that we couldn't get a good shot as to how many people are being transported. So these things are happening in a systematic. I should note that the 2 airplanes that we found out about, it was how we got a hold of this information was because somebody followed a bus from the downtown Federal Building to Burbank, and then after that, these 2 airplanes were filled with those people. Then the airplanes were tracked, I guess, digitally. They went from Burbank to El Paso, and then or sorry, San Antonio, and then they made their way back from San Antonio to Burbank. And so and there was an hour and a half turnaround. So that means that when they came back from San Antonio to Burbank, between an hour and a half of landing, they were already loaded up and they were flying back to Texas. So they have a system going. This is systematic. It's not a one-off. What we're going to be seeing is we're going to be seeing more of this. So what does that mean? I don't know. But it means that it's in the process of becoming even a bigger problem. At the same time, it should be noted that I just read a report that this deep into the Trump administration versus Joe Biden's administration, we were deporting more people then. It's just that this time right now it's outright and violent, and the mask is off. So, we're trying to stay on top of information. We're trying to see, what we can do. We want to know how many people are getting deported. Who are these people? Where are they going? We have no information, but what we're seeing is violence in the street. We're seeing people being terrorized. What we're seeing is terrorism, a state terrorism upon the people. And it should be noted that 3 days ago, there were no cars on fire. 3 days ago, there were no riots out in the street. 3 days ago, people were peacefully cohabitating with our immigrant, family members and siblings. So it should be noted that the violence started when ICE and the federal government decided to start terrorizing the people.
Yeah, and I was out, as I said at the top of the call, at Mariachi Plaza in East LA, and there were people collecting, and an organization had sort of sponsored the demonstration, and they were very eloquent and clear that they have no desire to do any damage to the community. And individual cars might be on fire. I've seen pictures too that make it look like the whole city's on fire when it was just one car on fire, if you were able to pull the lens out. Activists are not, this is not 1994 in Los Angeles. This is not 1965 in Los Angeles in terms of building burnings or anything like that. And by the way, another thing too I want to say is there have been a few heroic moments where people have collected and sort of shamed ICE. But also, as Angelica makes clear, because I've had a few people contact me from across the country, and it's like, yay, LA, keep going, doing what you're doing. Unfortunately, the tragic theft of people from their families and from their communities is the more common outcome of ICE raids, rather than them somehow being shamed out of pursuing what they came to do. Right now we'll see how the day goes. Again, I'll be off this call in 30 minutes, and I'll get in my car and I'm going to drive down close to City Hall and see what's going on down there and try to lend my support and solidarity to the people who were there. Hopefully, local law enforcement who have put out statements condemning the ICE raids will not crack down on people and create what we've seen at times, of course, throughout my lifetime, many times, what effectively are police riots. So, your thoughts on that, Angelica?
Yes, I think that if people are able to make their way out to demonstrations, please do so. Please remain safe. And most importantly, if you're able to
We're losing you a little bit on your link, on your connectivity.
go
I sent you.
out
Go ahead.
to demonstrations during the week, please do. If you're able to share on social media, the privilege and the opportunity to participate in any actions during the week. We do need to disrupt business as usual. We need to make sure that we're being seen, and it is important to do the weekend rallies for accessibility for people who cannot. But in reality, we need to make sure that we are disrupting business as usual. So please, if you're able to do any actions during the week, during the work day, please join us, and just stay safe, stay protected. We keep each other safe. If you know anybody that is in danger, please support them in any way that you can. What does that mean? Whatever that means, support them in any way you can. If that means that if you're able to fund their safety, please do so. If you're able to just simply be a listening ear, please do so. If you're able to just show them that you care, please do that. People are scared, and I have a feeling that it's going to get worse before it gets better. So we need to stay together, we need to stay informed, and those of us who have the ability to strategize, we need to take a pause, and we really need to figure out what our next move is going to be.
Yes, thank you. And of course, I'll be in touch with Kent Wong and the UCLA labor folks who were very committed to supporting communities and individuals who are facing this as best as they can. Of course, they're very committed. The heart of their activity revolves around nonviolence. And so we stand with that approach, of course. And I'll also be in touch with a few other great local community activists, some of whom's names would be familiar to people on the call. And I've been in touch a little bit with folks and seeking their counsel, their advice, and with Angelica, we'll be working together on behalf of PDA to show our solidarity for the communities and individuals who are under attack from ICE and from the federal government right now. So with that, I want to maybe take questions, and I know Elizabeth Fatah's first, but while people get their hands raised. I'm also going to call on Hartzell Gray for his thoughts on all of this happening around the country and the world right now. Hartzell, please unmute Hartzell. And hey, we can see you too, man.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. How you doing? What are your thoughts on what's happening in Southern California? Elizabeth, you'll be after Hartzell.
Yeah, just incredible. I've actually was thinking about some things to post about online. I've got a twin brother that lives in LA, and was asking him about it. And it's like you said, Alan, it's such a huge space. You know, my brother, he had no idea what was going on, but it was up to me to fill him in and tell him like this is what's really happening. And yeah, it blows my mind. That we've had to do so much history together, and we're going to have to keep doing so much more, right? And if there is a positive note, I think especially with the news of Elon Musk and Trump's, the girls are fighting kind of thing. I think that I don't know if William Walter's on this call right now, but I do think that we owe a great deal to Will and the Fighting Oligarchy Coalition in Wisconsin, because I think this is something we can be really proud about on this call, because with Elon taking such a big loss in Wisconsin, and by that I mean by Will and his cohort organizing and completely just demolishing Elon's attempt to buy up the Supreme Court in Wisconsin, you all essentially kicked him out of DC and kicked him out of the White House and began what maybe is his spiraling, whatever he's going through right now. Because I think, and I say that jokingly, but I think that was when Trump realized that Elon's utility was no longer useful to him, was when he lost huge in Wisconsin for that Supreme Court race. So Will and all your cohorts, who we actually heard on the call, about a few weeks ago, right? You all may have given Elon the stanky boot. So maybe we have to say thank you to Will and the crew in Wisconsin.
I don't know if we can take credit for that, Hartzell. He was already on the edge. We just gave him a slight little push.
You pushed them off. Well, hey, that's what it's going to take. A lot of us with a lot of slight little pushes to make a huge wave, and that's how winning's done, and that's how we get it done. So, just some nice some flowers to be given out on what has been a very heavy call, and what will be a heavy every day going forward. It's been heavy already, and it's going to get heavier. But let's celebrate the wins, and let's generate some more wins in the process.
Just quickly before we go to again stack. Both Will and Hartzell, and in your network of friends, is your sense that the introduction of the Block the Bombs Act will be embraced?
Oh, absolutely. I say absolutely. I think the American people say absolutely. I think not even just a Democratic base, but also everyone right now is just seeing what they're seeing and realizing this is just madness. This is insane. But I live in a district with an establishment Democrat who's 80 years old and will probably not sign on to this. Former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, but has never been a member of the Progressive Caucus. This is just the disconnect. And I hope to speak with Rep Ramirez in person again. We had Delia at Progressive Central, which was so great. And I would love to ask her in person, has the party reckoned with the fact that Gaza and Israel's genocide, that wasn't just a thing in the election that people thought. It was, I believe, a determinant. Of those who did not vote, 39% of their reasoning was because of Gaza and genocide in Palestine. And my question would have been to her, has the establishment figured that out, or have they been willing to grapple with that? And if they had been, we would have more than just 22 people signed on to that legislation, right? So it sounds to me that we still have a whole lot of work to do, and I'm just so happy that we got champions who are going to help us, and we're going to grow that number.
By the way, PDA does endorse usually 25 incumbents plus a handful of new members who win. So we have PDA allies who have not signed on. And by the way, there are a few members who aren't PDA endorsed incumbents who signed on, including even Sarah Jacobs, who I've been a fan of, a growing fan, increasingly appreciative of her going forward, but don't have a deep relationship with her yet as the representative from San Diego, one of the reps from San Diego, and very appreciative of her, and looking forward to developing that relationship. So, given that she wasn't endorsed, a few other people on there were not PDA endorsed candidates. There are about 10 PDA endorsed candidates that are on there. So we got our work to do, PDA, to get to get more people on the black bombs. William, your thoughts too, and in your network of people. Mr. Walter, are you with us still? He might have been muted again. Please unmute Mr. Walter. There you go.
Yes, I was muted again. So Mark Pocan actually was one of the individuals to introduce. So yes, our officials are in line with this. Obviously, to give a little bit of context to you, Alan, our Wisconsin Revolution endorsed the uninstructed movement. We knew that Michigan and Wisconsin in particular, this was likely to be something that really was showcased in the results in November, and it ended up coming to fruition. So yes, this is at the forefront of our minds here in the state. We're hoping to push Gwen Moore, who is the Milwaukee representative as well, to sign on, but Mark Pocan did help introduce the bill. So
thank you so much. Well, with that, Hartzell and William, I'm going to go to the stack, and I, folks, am not going to be here on this call next week live. I might pre-record an interview with folks so they can because again, I want to keep bringing on guests such as John Boniface, such as Delia Ramirez, maybe back again soon, the mayor of Tucson, maybe Adelita Grijalva again. By the way, also right before we go to the stack, people should be aware this has happened very, very quickly. The Virginia 11th firehouse, fire hose, whatever the heck they call the system of voting, they have declared that voting is happening. I think it starts on June 17th in that district. So there's a congressional seat open, and our Virginia activists are very, very much going through candidates, and they're going to decide who they endorse. And we are again, maybe Stephen Spitz can clarify the dates for us that people need to know about this. But in Virginia 11th, just like Arizona 7th, there's an open Democratic seat this time because of the death of Jerry Connolly. And of course, we would love to see a progressive fill that seat going forward. And Stephen, I think, is on the call, and maybe I'll call on him. But right now, people have been waiting for a long time. Elizabeth Fatah, please unmute. And I saw your question in the chat and answered it, but please, I saw you had your hand up quickly there and wanted to speak.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because I consider a lot of hypocrisy here. When Joe Biden, a Democrat, was in the White House, I didn't see all this against Gaza. I have written to my senator. I have called my representative. No, let me finish. Just let me finish.
It's not true of PDA, though. It's just not true, Elizabeth.
No, I'm just saying that there wasn't this move now to stop the bombs. There should have been. In fact, the Democratic Party is complicit in genocide. It was under Biden's watch. And I mean, now to just kind of completely forget that, okay, well, now it's Trump, so we can go out there and do this. I mean, I'm sorry, I am an independent voter. I usually vote for Democrats in my local election, and on the federal elections, I usually vote for the Green Party because I certainly haven't seen any Democratic president that would represent my views. Anyway, my time is up. Thank you for taking my question, but I'm not the only one who feels this way.
Sure. Well,
what you're saying.
As William just said, 39% of people who didn't vote because of Gaza. Yeah. Clearly, almost everybody who would have voted if one of the parties had a position commensurate with what it should have been on Gaza, almost certainly would have been non-Republican voters. They would have been Democratic voters. So the loss of the election, a lot of people now attribute that's a major contributing factor in the loss of the election. And that's not an analysis that we disagree with here at PDA. So I thank you for your voice, Elizabeth, and let's continue working together. Oh, and I think she got muted, but I apologize for that. Try not to mute people too quickly, folks. Let's go now. I understand that. Melissa, you're up next. Please unmute.
Hello, thank you for having me. I've already called and called and done the online petitions today, and I've done so yesterday, and I will continue to do so. My question is, I have registered for the No King's Day, and I would like to ask Dan O'Neill if anybody in Phoenix is willing to come with me to a demonstration in Tempe or not.
Dan, I'm going to unmute you. I know that Dan will be there. I know that Dan, you know, I don't know if your plans will match up, but you know, I'm sure he'll help out Dan.
Alan,
Mhm.
I didn't catch the end of the if we were going to do what now?
I have registered for the No King's Day. I just
Oh.
need I mean like support, you know. So they'll be physically bringing my wheelchair out, and I'll make sure that I find the best place.
Melissa, PDA has already secured a table. We're working very strongly to have a PDA table at the No King's Day event in Phoenix, the large one. Okay, now there's lots of events in Maricopa County and across the state. There's scores of them. They're everywhere. So we encourage people to join any event they want to, but we will have a PDA table and a presence at the big one in downtown Phoenix. At the Capitol.
What time is that?
Okay, so my understanding is it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning because of the heat here, and it goes till 12 noon. And it's not typically going to be a protest, so to speak. From what I understand, the organizers are planning more of a community town hall and a community gathering, and they're encouraging organizations to set up tables and to have show the community what the different organizations that are fighting back are all about. So it's more of a festival, so to speak, against Trump, obviously, but a more of a people's festival rather than a march. Yeah.
Well, thank you to both of you, and I'm going to move on because the stack is so huge to Michael Durson. Please unmute, Michael.
Oh yeah, so we can make a question and a comment.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, so I don't think that it's advertised enough that most of the Jewish people or a lot of the Jewish people are against what's happening in Gaza, and it's not covered in the press enough.
Right.
Netanyahu was just doing this to stay out of jail because wasn't he indicted by the Supreme Court of Israel, whatever they call that?
Sadly, I think that's Jewish Americans are in the sentiment that you're describing, less so Israelis. Yes.
Yeah. So you know, that's important to remember. Isn't that true though?
Yes, I'm not sure about a majority. And it just depends on how the question is phrased.
Yeah.
There's still broad support among Jewish Americans for Israel, but support specifically for the Netanyahu government and for the actions in Gaza, I understand, has fallen dramatically. Yes.
Yeah. So, and real quickly, I was featured on the House floor because I get food stamps. I was active with our Representative Badigan, who was down to demonstrations, by the way. And so stay active, everybody, and just let everybody know that we're at 427 parts per million in the atmosphere in carbon. And so unfortunately, all these things that are happening, look, if it bleeds, it leads. I was a journalist in Alaska, so I don't really watch a lot of TV news right now. So, but well, we still have to do what we can to stop climate change. And you know, I voted for Jimmy Carter in 1980, who tried to get us off alternative energy, and I just went to his first speech on energy. It's amazing.
Hey, thank you
It's
so
on
much,
YouTube.
Michael.
But everybody keep up the good work. Last thing, I give $5 a month to PDA. If everybody gave $5 a month to PDA, you know, we wouldn't be in a lot better shape. So I don't give weekly because I give what I can right now, which is about $5 per month.
Oh, thank you so much. That is so generous. Thank you so much, sir. And a great reminder for people to become a sustainer at $5 a month is a great idea if you aren't already. And give what you can on these calls then to obviously organizations like PDA. We now have some new costs to incur, including setting up relationships with lawyers who can protect us for what seems like the inevitable attacks to come. Lynn, please unmute. Lynn H. of SoCal.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Two things. For people who are concerned about safety and are fearful of going out on No King's Day. There is a training on Tuesday at June 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, sponsored by the ACLU. It's called Know Your Rights Training. Get ready for June 14th. At this training, they will make sure that we know our rights during protests and law enforcement encounters, and help us get ready to take action safely, powerfully, and together. So I encourage everyone to go to the aclu.org website and sign up for Know Your Rights training to be a little more confident and comfortable when we go to the protest. And finally, the Talking Points memo has a really good article called Breaking Out of Los Angeles. And it's basically Josh Marshall telling us that public opinion really matters, and that's what we are trying to shape. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Actually, that is something that's on my mind quite a bit. We're going to go to Alex William, then the Honorable Nina Turner, and then over to Susan Harmon, then Jim Carpenter. But I want to say I can't hear you say the last thought and not say this. Look, when you look at public opinion polls of Americans, we have to be adamant in our moral position supporting the working people, the hardworking people and residents of Southern California and around the country who are being deported. And by the way, that's something we can't stand for. And then how they're going to be treated when they're deported is, as we all know, these sites are horrendous and inhumane. So we have to stand in solidarity with them. And we also have to try to be outspoken and communicate with our fellow Americans and move the polls on these things. People have to understand that the migrant workforce that has come to the United States looking for work here, people work very, very hard. They're not trying to do damage to our society. And they really are very much even having to migrate here because of the geopolitics of economy and the weakness of the economy and the violence and the societies they live in that they're coming from. Often the United States has a significant role in the authorship of those geopolitical dynamics that create that. But we do need to have our voices be heard so that the public, any kind of sense that the public supports what's going on is inverted. Because the polls have turned and moved against the Trumpian position because of how violent and horrible this is. So we have to keep speaking up and not accept the logic that this is something that the majority of the American people want. Alex Williams, please unmute. Alex, please unmute. Alex Williams, there you go. You got it.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing, Alex?
Okay. This whole thing is just really, actually, I'm not, the stuff going on in Southern California, I was surprised about, but not really. And I'm kind of glad. I'm really glad. I'm not glad about the violence. That's not, not that. But people are starting to stand up. It was inevitable that was going to happen. And, this is the beginning of the revolution or whatever you want to call it, because this is not it. This is going to spread. This is going to spread. Man, I'm here in Rockville, just outside of DC, and you know about the whole thing with DuPont Circle.
No, tell us.
Oh, well, DuPont Circle is the centerpiece of the gay community in DC. And the city was going to close down. It's I'm out of time.
Oh no, keep going, please. That's right. Let's keep going. Go ahead, Alex.
Down, it's an actual circle, like a park, but anyway, they were going to close it down for Pride of all things, and this is coming from the city. Well, the city decided, they got backlash from the community, and the city decided to open it up. But then the federal government stepped in because it's part of the Park Service, and just said, no, we're going to close it anyway. And that caused some, I don't know what's going on down there now, but I know that community, and they don't take well to just, they will speak back. And I don't know if there's going to be, I doubt violence, but they had to reroute the Pride Parade, and it's international Pride in DC. So this is like a I almost see this being like a Stonewall kind of thing. because
Mhm.
I mean they just gated off the whole that little circle park. And like I said, I don't see, and other places too, because immigrants are being picked up, well, all over the country. And I don't got people standing for it in Chicago or New York or LA is just the first, to say no. We're not going to let you. And here's the danger part: the administration is looking, the regime is looking for something like this to spark something. And here we go. They're sending in. They talked about sending in Marines, which I've never heard of before.
Right.
I mean, even the 60s, they didn't do that.
From Hexit, yeah. That's what he said. Hey, thank you so much, Alex. Let's move on to Nina Turner. How you doing? Honorable Nina Turner, the great Nina Turner. How you doing, Nina Turner?
Oh, hey, Alan Minsky. I'm doing well. To the PDA family, thank you. I saw Fox's comments in the that the stack is very large today. I've been listening for quite some time. I want to really shout out Representative Ramirez and her courage and all. Love you too, Dr. Langford, and all of the 22 people, I think you said, Alan, who had the courage to sign on, the push to continue to get more of our members to expose them, to get more of them to sign on and expose who they really are. This is going to be a turning point. Alan, your comment, and then the young lady that was right after her, our sister, I didn't catch her name. I was driving at the time.
Oh, Laura Lucero?
Oh my God, Sister Laura, do your thing. It was just beautiful. This has been beautiful. I'm glad I had the opportunity just to come on and stop by to listen. Just wanted to listen, but there are things that are being said. So, Alan, your point about the geopolitical consequences, the pull-push factors that we learn about in history classes, this is a classic of example of push and pull. Not many folks would just pick up and leave their homeland for nothing, and we got to think about that. The incredible, the incredible courage, sometimes sacrifice, and desperation to pick up and leave your home. That has to tell us something, that these pull and push factors, for most, not for all, are incredible. And the United States of America and other industrialized nations have to wear that, even though they haven't had the courage to do so yet, but have been complicit in why so many people take the risk to leave their homes. Most people are not leaving their homes for nothing. So I want to add that because I do understand that there are criminal elements. To be human is to be criminal. So no ethnicity, no race, even though it's a social construct, is devoid of having criminal elements. Got it? Said it. But this Trump administration and what they're doing and othering people and making it seem like every single immigrant, especially if you are a brown immigrant and a black immigrant too, because they're black immigrants, that you are somehow more criminal than immigrants that come from other part of the world, say Europe. Hello, somebody. It is the height of white supremacy and the power that white supremacy has on the mental faculties and the way that people move, not only in this country, in this world, either consciously or unconsciously. So I want us to keep that in mind. To Sister Elizabeth, who said, Alan, is certain this is not directed towards PDA. PDA moves differently. But Sister Elizabeth is exactly right about the hypocrisy of those of us who stand for justice or those of us who rock with the Democratic Party. I think that was her main point.
Yeah.
That when President Biden was in office, because he did it more cool, calm, and collectedly, and the same thing with President Obama, there was not a lot of outrage. Things happening under the Trump administration is taking off the veil and is making people realize, hopefully people are saying to themselves, we made a mistake by not being as vocal when Biden was in office. Biden started this and he gave Trump license to do what President Trump would be doing anyway. I am saying president because he was duly elected to that office. Alan, your point about the polling, I know one of our sisters said that we got to pay it. Perception is reality and how public feels. When we are fighting for unfettered justice and liberation, we shape public thinking.
Yes.
So the public can be wrong. The public was wrong when it was against Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was one of the most hated men in the United States of America. So were the Black Panthers, Medgar Evers, others. We can name all kinds of folks who now we talk about them like they were always our heroes. I'm using we very generally, sisters and brothers and family and friends, but I'm talking about sentiments of the majority can be wrong.
Yes.
And so I'm saying this with passion and I'm saying it with love. Yes, we must keep an eye on what the polling says and what so-called quote unquote public sentiment is. But public sentiment can be shaped. Media can shape. Minister Malcolm X once said that the media makes us love whom we will and hate whom we will. People can be propagandized. Even some of the strongest people can fall into the trap of believing it. So those of us who believe in justice in all of its forms must not be discouraged by public opinion when it is wrong. When it is wrong, we must stand up against it and say what is right. It is wrong what President Donald J. Trump is doing right now. It is wrong what President Joseph R. Biden was doing, and on and on and on. And so we can shape and change and move public policy, and let's not be discouraged by that, Alan. I just want to lift PDA and all the members here and others who are weary at times, and just to tell us, please do not get weary and well doing, as hard as it is. I want us to keep on pushing. We have so many historic examples of people who were at the time labeled as not patriotic, labeled as traitors, labeled, pick the label. But today we see them differently because history proved them right. And history will prove us right. We just cannot, we must not get weary and well doing. So big ups, PDA. Let's keep on pushing. Oh, my last point, that $5 a month, please. Please, if it's just $2 a month, please, we need money for the mission. We cannot forget that if many of us, many hands make for light work, if many of us give $5, $2, whatever we can give, and we get thousands and then hundreds of thousands of people to do just that, the tide will absolutely turn. And Alan, thanks for indulging me. I know I said that was the last thing. Something else that is on my mind that maybe we could take up as another time is this whole Elon Musk thing and the willingness of some Democrats to beg him, embrace him. We're setting up a terrible precedence here. Even though President Donald J. Trump is wrong, don't get me wrong, he is wrong. He was elected. And anytime you got somebody like Elon Musk who says, it's because of me that you won this. It's because of me, all of this money and all of this. If we take his side, and some electeds have taken his side, some Democrats are falling into that trap. His money is no good. Him and others like him should only be able to give what the maximum is to give. They should not be able to buy any party or any person at all. So I don't want the disdain or the displeasure with President Donald J. Trump to force Democrats into thinking that Elon Musk is some type of hero. He was growing up in apartheid South Africa, and we know how he thinks and how he feels about Black people. And then we know how he thinks and how he feels about other marginalized groups. Look what he did to Doge. He is no hero whatsoever. And if President Donald J. Trump is right in anything, he is showing, air quotes, that he cannot be bought. I put that in air quotes because we know that he is involved in corruption as well. However, two things can be true at one time, and Elon Musk should not be lifted up in any stretch of the imagination. And if he turns on President Donald J. Trump the way that he did, the President of the United States of America, the Democrats better get a clue and get it quickly that as soon as they disagree with him, he will turn on them too. He is not a hero, Alan.
Yeah, no, and even the thing with the renewable energy versus fossil fuels. First of all, what you weren't listening for the last 6 months, 9 months, a year? What the hell? We're supposed to take that seriously, that Elon Musk?
That's right.
And then also for him, of course, it's maddeningly self-serving.
That's right. I mean, did he repent? I don't know if he's repented of any of these things I said. Now, it's one thing when somebody says,
No,
I've been wrong for like all my life and I see the light, but I don't know. Did I miss him saying he sees the light? Okay. I just want to
He
make
just
sure.
he made that point because he's trying to up his Tesla stock, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. I love you, PDA. And Alan, thank you so much for indulging me. I was glad I could stop by, sisters and brothers, and listen in. I love you guys.
Thank you. Love you too. And with that, I do have to next on stack, and I think Jim should be third. But next on stack will be Susan, Jim Carpenter second, Jim Langford third, Mimi fourth. And if you can pick up from here, I am going to go down to City Hall and get in the car and jump down there because solidarity. I got
Hey,
it.
Alan, real quick. Hey, Alan, I'm scrolling on my feed, and looks like there is some tear gas that has been thrown out. National Guard is there in LA, so just
Where in
be
LA
very.
though? Where though?
I'm trying. That is exactly what I'm trying to look up now. I'm
Pretty
just
sure
seeing
they're not
videos.
in downtown. They're probably either in Compton, Paramount, Long Beach is where they were yesterday.
Okay, well, I'm
Yeah,
seeing
they just
stuff out there, so just
text
be
me.
careful, brother.
I don't think it's downtown. And I'm gonna call Kent Wong too, who's been on this call before, to see what those folks are doing. Anyway, I'm just gonna put a bow on this as I do for Mike Fox and hand off to Mike. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Laura Lucero. I want to thank Nina Turner. Of course, I want to thank Mayor Romero, who couldn't join us. And I'm forgetting the name of the man from the County Federation of Democratic Party groups from
Eric.
Eric. Thanks to Eric. Thanks to Paul Stapleton Smith. Thanks to Dan O'Neill and Mike Olis, Mike Fox, Angelica Duenas, and most importantly to Representative Delia Ramirez. Let's contact all of our Congress people. Thank the 22 who signed on to block the bombs, and ask the other 413 become co-sponsors. Thank you, Mike Fox. Take it away. I will not be on the town hall live next week. I'll see about possibly recording a pre-record short interview like I did this week in advance. Hartzell Gray, Donna Smith will be leading the call in my absence. And I'll be on a plane again because I'll have to stay in LA through the No Kings event. And then I'm at an economics conference on Monday. The only day I can fly is Sunday. Mike, take it away. Thank you.